Any problem?
That would be me. Yeah, I'd like to address the board regarding the reassessing of all the properties in the township. The first question I have is, when will that outside company be implementing the reassessments
I would say probably April 1st.
of this year?
Yes, because we have to have it completed before we finish the, what do they call that thing, fellas? The roll in 2012.
Okay.
So by March of 2012 it has to be done.
Okay, and the next part of my question, I'd like to know what provisions the board has made to prorate the current assessor's salary for the 2 years, considering that an outside assessor will instead be performing those job duties at an added expense to the taxpayer, or what will the current assessor be doing for her salary outside of what the private company will be doing?
Nothing has been mentioned at this time.
Are you going to be addressing that in the future?
If the board so wishes, but I don't know what we can do about that. So, because of the, because she's an elected official. No, I don't know. We just have to.
But she's not an elected assessor, so why should we pay her $19,000
Okay, I see
to? That's what I'm saying. When we're already paying another company.
We'll have to get together with her.
When I worked with the equalization department to do a complete reappraisal of the township that they had denied in 1988. At that time, I donated my $3,000 that I would have been paid for my assessing to equalization, so there was no additional cost to the township for that reappraisal.
What would we be paying her for if we're paying all that money to the other assessors though?
You don't understand the complexity of that job.
Well, obviously she didn't either, because she didn't get it done. It was costing us $94,000 or more to do it.
$86,000.
Can I ask where the funds are going to be coming out of the township budget to pay for these?
General fund.
Out of general fund?
Yes, ma'am.
And $86,000 is the final?
Yes, ma'am. 86,000, what, 500, something like that?
So it comes out of the general fund?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess additional into what Cindy's asking, is the board going to investigate why the records were allowed to be out of date for the 9 years in which she was the tax assessor, with no plans to correct despite failing a mini assessment by her own admission 2 or 3 years ago, which has resulted in the state's 14-point review failure, which has caused the reassessment? You know,
That'll probably be done with when the appraisal group gets in here.
She may not be here.
what will be done? The appraisal group won't be investigating her.
She's not elected assessor,
She's a contracted assessor.
Yes.
Yeah, she's
Right.
contracted.
But the appraisal group will not be assessing her job performance. Her job performance should be the responsibility of the board to assess it. And this is costing the taxpayers $86,000. Additional money that we've already paid her for 9 years, $19,000 a year for 9 years, to keep the records updated and to assess properties. She hired file clerks, but she did not come and say, I need to hire additional help when she failed the mini assessment. Now we failed the 14-point review last year, which is resulting in $86,000 cost to the taxpayers. So I think her job performance needs to be reviewed.
I mean, because see, right now Wendy does both jobs, so, I
Correct.
mean, if she's supervising herself, I don't see how there could be any accountability.
There's no checks and balances is the issue.
I mean, I think the board should be really concerned with that.
Is, if we go outside and hire an assessor, you're talking about a minimum of 50 grand a year. Now, if you don't believe that,
I'm not saying I don't believe that, but we ended up, by taking a shortcut, you've ended up costing the taxpayers more money. So where did you really save any money? The thing is if you have a contract and it spells out what her job duties were, you should be able to evaluate whether or not she lived up to that contract. Otherwise, then I guess the taxpayers have nothing else, have no other recourse other than to file a complaint with the state tax commission. And then they will investigate.
yes. Yes,
Outside of the talk of investigating the performance of the assessor, is the board at least going to consider what will happen to the salary of the assessor while another company is doing that job? Can we get at least a confirmation from the board that they will?
from my understanding, what they're doing is completely different from what she does in there. They'll be working together. It might be a good idea to get those people in here to clarify some of this stuff that we don't understand.
If the board can't review her job performance, then the State Board Assessors Association should do it perhaps, because they would know exactly what the laws were and what her duties should have been. But I don't think you saved any money by having an assessor and a supervisor doing the same job. There's no checks and balances, and if you don't assess the job performance, how are you going to prevent this from happening in the future?
It happened 22 years ago.
It just happened in 01.
We did the same thing.
And then, if it happened 22 years ago, what did you do to prevent it from happening now? And if you're not going to do anything to prevent it from happening now, what are you going to do to keep it from preventing 10 years from?
Well, apparently by the request from the representatives in the office, or in the audience, call me out, that we need to contact somebody concerning their concerns. I see it as
For clarifications.
what we should do. Obviously, we haven't been in this situation, don't know which way to go, so we need some help from somebody how to address the situation. We need answers for the public.
I'll see if I can get hold of Louis. Yeah, shoot. Okay, we'll see what we can do with that.
As a commissioner, since it's happening in more than one township in Jackson County, can you give us a brief explanation to the public of why the state is requiring reassessment of all the properties in certain townships? I mean, is there like a short?
I'm not really sure. They did that to Rives Township a few years ago. They come in and because the supervisor wasn't keeping everything up.
Okay.
And anyway, so they come in and they made us do it.